Good on YouTube.
All right, we're good.
Hey guys, just before we start,
Too late.
all right, it's too late. I'll take the notes on votes for Peter.
Awesome. You're awesome. All right. Let's welcome to the Litchfield Recreation Commission meeting. Today is April 27th, 2021. During the last meeting, we had the annual election of officers. I originally planned on introducing the full commission this evening. However, we have a couple of members absent, so I will just state the names and positions, and I guess we could do a round of introductions next week. My name is Steve Gannon, and I was elected as chair and graciously accepted. Mr. Andrew Ruggles will be holding the position as vice chair. Mr. Peter Ames will be retaining the position of secretary. We have Mr. Christopher Burns as a full-time member. Mr. Stephen Weber is going to be our selectman's representative. And we were fortunate enough to retain the years of experience and knowledge of our long-term members, Mr. Michael Boshi and Andrew Collins. Tonight, Peter, Michael, and Andy are actually out for personal reasons. So if I want to say also, if anyone in our viewing audience is interested, we actually have 4 alternate positions open at this time, which would be great. Joining a commission is a great way to get involved in your small town and try to give some kind of positive impact back. If you are interested, please send an email to rc@litchfieldnh.gov. Once again, that's rc@litchfieldnh.gov, and we have 4 open alternate positions on the Recreation Commission. So we'll begin with a roll call. Mr. Christopher Burns.
Aye.
We have Mr. Andy Ruggles.
Present.
Mr. Weber.
Present.
I am Steve Gannon, and I am also present. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Ames, Boshi, and Collins notified us according to policy, and they will not be in tonight's meeting. We do have a quorum. We have 4 members, so we can proceed with voting on motions. First thing we'll cover is consideration of meeting minutes of previous meetings. However, we have not received any previous meeting minutes, so we will move on and review those at the next meeting. Next thing will be public input. We don't have anyone else online. I don't see anyone in the audience at Town Hall. So we will move on with public input and close that. That's correct, right, John Bernal? There's no one else online, no one in the facility?
That is correct.
All right. Our first item will be facilities request. We have one request from Mrs. Dawn or Miss Dawn Parker from Litchfield School District. She originally requested the use of Talent Hall. However, Mr. Ruggles reached out to her and they clarified her request. It's actually, she's looking more for general use of Roy Memorial Park for a Campbell High School senior class of 2021 activity and fun day. Plans are to be held on Tuesday, June 8th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. She would like to bring in food trucks, and there will be non-alcoholic beverages to be served. Considering this is a Litchfield School District event, I assume we are covered from the insurance standpoint. And I guess we should open this up to a motion, and then we could discuss about it. So I will entertain a motion to allow Litchfield School District to have their 2021 Senior Activity Fun Day on June 8th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
I second.
I don't think Steve was making the motion. I think he was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will make a motion for the Litchfield School District to use the Roy Memorial Park on June 8th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. For a field day.
I think we should just verify that we do have their insurance certificate on file.
Agreed.
Okay. Now, considering, did we have a second? Yeah,
I'll
Andy-
second. Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, so now we can discuss it. Now, this is something different because we typically do not reserve a whole park. We could certainly reserve the fields or the tennis courts or basketball courts, but to actually reserve parking lots, that's nothing we've actually done in the past, nothing that I think we can do. What's everybody else's thoughts?
I mean, there's times where we have softball tournaments in town and all three fields are being used. So, you know, it's pretty much at that point, it's almost the whole entire park.
Same with
What was
soccer.
the date again of it?
June 8th. It's a Tuesday.
I think what we'd need to do is verify that we don't have any softball scheduled. And if we hold on a minute, I could look at the master schedule and see if there's any games scheduled to be played.
On a school day, there won't be any.
Yeah,
games.
this is a school
school
day
day, so there
from
wouldn't
9
be
a.m.
anything
to 2
there,
p.m.
so,
So I
Yeah.
don't foresee a lot of usage at that time.
No.
Looks like we did have somebody join.
All right, that was me. My bad. It was Rob.
Okay, no worries. All right, no worries.
Maybe I
So we
should
have to
alternate.
check on insurance. You want to be an alternate, Rob? That'd be good. So we need to check on insurance. Imagine if we hold the field in the basketball court, that would pretty much lock up the whole park. Is there any issues with having food trucks? I don't believe so.
I don't believe so either.
I think
As
as long
long
as
as
they
we
stay
have
in the
permits
parking
to-
lot.
Yeah.
Does it say, so it says 100 people, Steve, is that something we need to run by the EMT?
Based off of what we do with the Boy Scouts in a smaller area with 50 people, I don't think that it's going to be an issue. Plus the Safe at Home mandate is going to be over on May 7th. Unless the governor comes back in and issues a mandate. It also seems like the CDC is going to be lifting their requirements or guidelines of mass outside. I don't think we'll have any issue whatsoever, but as a courtesy, I will bring it up tomorrow at the EMT call.
And the other thing, should we ask for a sanitizing schedule or something from them for the outhouse? You know, I know the Boy Scouts had something for that.
Yeah, because Talent Hall will be closed.
Yeah, so what the Boy Scouts did is they went down to the highway department and got a mix that the highway department uses, and they just sprayed it down. So I think if the school does the same thing, we should be good.
Okay.
All right, so the contingencies will be, we need to validate their insurance. Need to provide them the cleaning chemicals, spray, etc. for the porta potty.
And providing EMT has no.
EMT has no issues. And then we probably should bounce this off Mr. Ryan Lane, let him know that the fields will be used that day. I don't know if he has anything scheduled, but just as a courtesy.
Yeah, because I believe we locked off most of the fields from 7 a.m. till 2 in the afternoon for him.
Yeah, correct. His only thing is, I don't think he necessarily minds, as long as he has a prior notification. You know, it shouldn't be an issue, but I will make sure that I notify him of the schedule date.
That'd be great. Because I envision that the seniors are going to be all over the place. I'm sure some are going to play basketball, some are going to be on the grass. They're going to be, outdoors for the day, which would be kind of nice to have. All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the proposal with those 4 contingencies in place.
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All right, let's do a roll call vote. We'll do an alphabetical order. We will go with Mr. Burns first.
Aye.
Who do we got? Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Aye.
I am also an aye. So motion carries 4-0-0. All right, we do not have any other facility requests at this time. We do have a large list of items on the new business. Field maintenance update. Is this something you're going to speak to, Mr. Ruggles, or was Mr.
Yeah,
Lane going
I
to join
can
us?
speak to it. There's just several items. I keep in touch with Ryan on a pretty consistent basis. He just kind of keeps me apprised of what's going on. So one of the major issues is out at Dara. I don't know if you guys saw the photos I sent to you today, with the condition of the pump. If he said if he livens that pump up the way it is, it's just gonna go back through and clog all the brand new heads that he just installed. So he's proposing to replace that pump. I can reach out to him and get a cost for that. But
I'm here, Andy.
oh, you're here, Ryan.
Yes.
Okay. You could speak to it
Yep.
a little better than myself then.
Yeah. Andy and I discussed this a few days back. It's one of those things where, we were going to tear into it anyway and make sure that everything was sound. Given the amount of work and money that was invested in replacing all the heads last fall, because in years past, and speaking with the prior contractor, the well at Dara Pond is particularly high in iron content, and the standard practice in the past was to just fire it up and run a couple of quick connects at various places throughout the field at Dara and try to flush that rust out. But if any of you recall some of the pictures of the heads that we replaced last fall, I mean, the bottom screens were just clogged solid with iron sediment. So that was the reason why we had proposed tearing into this thing in acceptance of our bid for the RFP. So when we did that 2 weeks ago, or about a week and a half ago, we discovered that the iron scale and buildup and deposits within that pump casing were so severe that the wear on the impeller and the casing itself were pretty profound. And what that does is it causes a significant decrease in pumping efficiency and its ability to move gallons per minute. So because we're doing this at zero cost labor and our costs for materials, it just makes sense to put a new pump in at this point. And through our contacts and our vendors, we've been able to source a brand new pump for, very, very close in cost to what it would take to rebuild the existing one. But the thing is in rebuilding it, I would have to do a whole new casing on the old one. Essentially, the only thing that's good that's left of that prior pump is the electrical motor itself.
Ryan, is there any type of filter that can be added to this to prevent it from happening again down the road?
Well, that was part of our proposal, was that we would add filtration systems post-pump. You can't necessarily put one in on the suction side. So our recommendation is, when you're moving water daily or multiple days a week, this isn't really a problem. It's when it sits for long periods of time. So, I talked about this with Andy this morning. It's our recommendation that in the future, part of the RFP, part of the contract between the town and the contractor should include removal of that pump every fall and tear down and cleaning.
What do you ballpark? Do you have a estimated cost for this? Just, if we move to vote on this tonight, just so we can get it done, what do you anticipate that would be?
Well, like I said, the labor's free. So I believe my cost, just approximate, I don't have the receipt in front of me, but I found a pump for less than $6 out of Florida.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? It cut out a little bit.
I found a pump out of Florida for less than $600.
So
to get this same any well company, they'd be charging you over $1,000.
So Ryan, at the same time, should we be putting a sediment filter on at least the output going to the valves and the heads?
That's what we're doing. That's what we proposed in our bid last December. And so I am installing that at my cost.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And it actually turns out that you require two of them because of it's a real unique design. It's not how I would have done it, but we're working around it. So we actually have to put in two filters. but it's, you know, it's going to make our lives easier in further on down the road in servicing these systems.
And that should help us with head life and valve life, right?
Yes,
Steve,
significantly.
both Steves, I guess. We have a line item for this for maintenance and repairs, correct?
That is what I am looking at now.
Let me see if I can
Figure
grab
it
the
out.
budget. But yes, we do have a line item. Just gotta figure out which one it is.
I was just.
And I can get.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
I can get the cost of what, you know, what I paid for the pump.
I think
I would
what we'll do-
also.
Go
I would
ahead, Ryan.
invoice you. I would invoice you for the pump and our labor, but then we would discount the labor to zero. We want it on the books. That's all.
Ryan, are the other fields in jeopardy of this as well?
No, Dara's the only one that has that high iron content. Everything else, it's incredibly clean water.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what we'll do, Ryan, I think we'll approve up to a certain dollar amount, you know, probably a little higher than what you're estimating, just in case there's fittings or something that you need.
Okay. Essentially, in our proposal that you guys accepted last December, it was servicing the pump and replacement of any parts at our cost, free labor, and the water filtration would be provided by us to you at no cost.
Steve, any luck finding that, or?
Okay, Parks and Recs, we have,
Correct.
yeah, we have a line item for equipment repair and maintenance up to $1,000. We have field maintenance, which is the actual contract.
It wouldn't be considered field improvement capital, right?
We got building repair and maintenance we could put it under.
Yeah, I think that could fall under that.
We definitely have line items we could put it under.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to approve $800 towards the cost of replacing the pump at Dara.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll open up for any discussion. Ryan, do you believe 800 should be sufficient for the pump and fittings, and would that include the filters as well?
Well, the fitting.
The filters,
filters were included in the RFP.
Yeah, you guys aren't paying for the filters. I'm paying for the filters. The filtration device is on me.
Okay, so then let's do a roll call vote. Okay, Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Mr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Aye.
I am also an aye. The motion passes 4-0-0. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
You're welcome.
You're
welcome.
Did we talk about a couple of the other things too, like replacing the cover at Dara to get rid of that piece of plywood that's a safety hazard? Were you able to look into that at all?
I've already sourced we're just going to go with what they call a jumbo valve box. It's about 18 inches in depth and 12 by 24 outside dimensions, which should be plenty big enough to house that old wiring junction box that's in there. That was actually, if I'm remembering correctly, when I was a kid at Darapon summer camp. That's where the original pump and everything was contained. So there's some 120, some 110 wires in there, and it is just it's a broken leg waiting to happen. It has been for a while.
I would agree with that. Yeah, if you can figure out what that's going to cost, source it and let us know. That'd be great also. And we could probably put that under the same field maintenance item. But I agree that needs to be replaced.
Sure. My question for you, for the committee is, you know, other incidentals, like when we started up Brickyard, you know, there were some heads that were underperforming. I believe the total was 8. I've got it somewhere in my notes, but you know, do you guys have a separate line item for that? Would that fall under the same category as the valve box we just discussed?
I believe we do have a category for that, Ryan.
Okay.
So it's 8 heads. Were there any at the other fields? Or was it just 8 at Brickyard?
Brickyard's the only one that we swapped out. I believe it was 8 of them. Bringing it up now.
No matter what, guys, we do have a line item we can charge you to, and if we, you know, and if we run over on a line item, you got to remember it's a bottom line budget. We'll just have to be conscientious of other line items.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 8 heads.
Okay. Do you have a cost on that, Ryan?
I can get this all to you guys in the next 24 hours.
Okay. So you just may have to, if it's okay, may have to wait unless you want us to vote on a number now, approximate number, so we can get you paid now.
You can do a not to exceed.
Yeah.
If you can just give us a ballpark, Ryan.
Okay. Yeah, you're looking at like $160 for the heads max, and then we did replace the rain meter at the sawmill. That one was no longer functioning properly. The rest of the rain meters just needed batteries. I'm not going to charge you guys for a $2 battery. So, figure $250 for the 8 heads and the new rain meter.
And what about in the box as well? Might as well add that in there. The jumbo box that you're replacing.
Yeah, just add in another that, and you should be good. So $350 total.
I'll make a motion to not to exceed 500 for the heads, the rain sensor, and the junction box.
I'll second.
All right, let's go for a roll call vote. Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Mr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Motion carries 4-0-0.
Just one other issue that was brought up. There was some soccer goal weights down at Sawmill that were filled with the salt from the salt shed, and they've caused quite a few brown spots all over the fields. They have since been taken care of, but maybe we need to get a note out to the leagues that you know, obviously anything that's going to damage fields shouldn't be used as weights for stuff.
You know, with playground sand, sandbox sand at $250 a bag, I think it's inexpensive enough that they can use those to weigh it down.
Yeah. So I'll send an email out.
I would think that would deteriorate the metals as well.
Ryan, is there anything else that you I know you've livened up everything. You put your crabgrass control down all the fields. Just from what I've seen, I had practice tonight. The fields look great. The grass is nice and short. I wanted to thank you for that. They look great.
You're welcome. It's been a pleasure this spring working with everybody. A really smooth startup overall. We couldn't ask for better growing conditions right now. It's a little cool, and it'd be nice to get a little bit more rain, but we're doing okay. One point of contention that concerns me is with the repairs that we had to make at Jeff Lane. I've been told by numerous individuals to send the bill to baseball, and it's not easy for me to invoice an association and essentially pull money from the coffers of the kids here in town. You know, that's not something we take lightly, but at the same time, you know, our time, especially this time of year, is valuable, and this was a easily preventable incident. You know, people make mistakes. Lord knows we have, and I always say, you know, I don't judge a person by their mistakes. I judge them by how they react to them. So that, you know, it's part of the job. It comes with the territory. These things happen, and we're happy to fix it. But I would feel a whole lot better sending the invoice to the rec committee and having the rec committee handle it in whichever manner they think is best.
Is that something that we can do, Mr. Weber?
It is. You guys can take it. I've already, we've already discussed it within baseball, and we do feel that it was our mistake. We take the whole responsibility for it. So if Ryan will push it to the rec commission, I will make sure that it gets taken care of by the baseball.
Awesome. One last thing, Ryan, I don't know if you're online.
Excuse me,
June
Stephen?
8th at 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The seniors of Campbell are going to be having an activity day at Dara. So I don't know if you have anything planned for that day, but I guess you could, if you can, please plan around it. 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesday, June 8th.
I'm writing it down right now. Excellent. That shouldn't be an issue at all.
Perfect. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks for calling in, Ryan.
You got it, guys. Any other questions or anything?
Nope, fields look great. The 4 baseball fields I spend time at look fantastic. And I
Excellent.
appreciate all
Well,
your
thank you.
effort, Adam.
Well, like I said, we're happy to do it. It's an honor, and it's been great working with all you guys, and congratulations on all the new officers. I'm still getting used to Steve's voice over Andy Collins. But yeah, if anything comes up, yeah. So we appreciate it, and you all have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan. Be well.
Thanks, bye.
All right, that brings us to the LBA request to release funds. I thought Mr. Schatz would be here, but would this be something Mr.
No,
Webb will be talking to?
I told Jim I would take care of this.
Okay.
So, I mean, we've already voted and approved, I'm sorry, can you see my screen here?
Coming up now, Andy.
It's coming up. Telling us post to Facebook.
Can you see this?
Now you're posting to Facebook, it looks like.
Sorry, hold on.
We see it now.
There we go.
Scoreboards, flagpole, and dedication center.
So after basically we had the issue out at Jeff Lane with the scoreboards, we originally wanted to put them. There's an irrigation line below them. So we're going to be moving them to a different location, and that requires just a little bit more work and some more materials. Basically, we got to bury an underground conduit. As you can see here, Steve Benoit, who's a master electrician, gave us a list of materials. Basically, we need 250 feet of underground cable, 3-hole weatherproof boxes. You know, you can read the list here: 1/2-inch PVC, female adapters, et cetera, et cetera. We also have in this list the materials that we'll need for the memorial sign. We already have the sign made. We just need to put the posts in and get it set up. So with that being said, the total amount that baseball is asking, I believe from the revolving fund, correct, Steve, or is this?
Well, what happened was we allocated impact fees for the construction of the parking lot. And within that, we also had the Air National Guard doing other items for us. Case in point, they were going to do the scoreboard poles, they were going to do the dedication sign, they were going to do some other things. So these monies have already been allocated. Via a vote we took probably 8 to 10 weeks ago. And what we're now asking for is the release of some of these funds to get some of the projects done, since the Air National Guard is not going to have a chance to get to it since they're checking people in at COVID stations.
So this would be under impact fees, Steve?
I believe most of this will, at least I know that the scoreboard posts and that the dedication sign was going to be installed in the flagpole by the Air National Guard.
Which kind of brings up another point, Steve. There's that other flagpole. Is it still available? Does anybody know what the status of that flag post is? Was that at Sawmill?
Yeah, we as a Recreation Commission brought it up a few weeks ago. And yes, that Sawmill, and everybody agreed that it could be utilized at Jeff Lane.
That's right. It all runs together to me.
It's just, I assume it's just sitting on the ground. It's not actively stood up.
Correct. It's just laying on the ground. It was bought a long time ago for Sawmill and it was never utilized.
Okay.
So we thought it'd be great to be able to utilize it at the Justin Bissett Memorial Baseball Complex, you know, to be there right next to the dedication plaque in the young boys lane. So what we're looking for is just the release of $642.57 so we could do this work. The ultimate goal is to try to get this work done as quickly as possible, because we'd like to have the dedication ceremony this year, since the actual dedication plaque has a few years sooner on it. It's taken us longer to get the complex completed.
All right. I will make a motion to release the funds in the amount of $642.57 to LBA from the impact fees that have already been allocated.
Second.
We'll do a roll call vote. Any more discussion? No. Okay. Roll call vote. Mr. Burns,
Aye.
Mr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
I will abstain since I'm the president of baseball.
All right. And I am an aye. Can the motion still carry when there's only three of us?
There is.
All right.
We have a quorum.
3-1. All right. 3-1-0.
3-0-1.
3-0-1. Yeah, abstains last. 3-0. Sorry. Getting new to this. It's my first day.
Doing great so far, Steve.
All right. And I assume for the flagpole, you're just gonna have somebody go down and pick it up.
Yeah, we
You'll
may
work
need
that out, right?
we may need to utilize your trailer.
All right, come get it whenever you want.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
And you, Steve. We need to utilize you.
Come with the trailer.
Sorry, man. I'll give you my truck.
We get the truck, the trailer, but no Steve.
No, Steve, no. That brings us to the parking lot update at Justin Bissett Memorial Field. As you mentioned already, the Air National Guard has been focused on COVID-19 support, and all goodwill training activities have been pushed off till 2022. I know our town administrator has engaged a local paving company. I don't know what the cost to us or where the funds are, but I believe we have to make a motion to accept, and then we can discuss, right?
It,
Well, I don't know if we have to make a motion. We've already allocated the funds. I think, Andy, you might want to be able to give an update. It's,
Okay.
really in the betterment of the whole entire program, what's about to happen.
Yeah, so basically, we had allocated the funds to the Air National
Air
Guard
National Guard, that's correct.
to perform the work, but then they recently got back to us and said that they weren't going to be able to do the parking lot until at least 2022. So when we got that news and with the recent starting of the season, the necessity for a parking lot out there has just become, over apparent. There's
One evening, we had 2 games going. We probably had 60 cars on that street going from one end to the other, and it makes it very difficult to get fire apparatus up and down the street.
Yeah.
that and kids running in between cars, and if a car, it's just very dangerous. It needs to be done. So we reached out to a local company. They have agreed to help us do the work at a discounted rate from what we had originally budgeted from the Air National Guard. So we are moving forward with that, and it's supposed to be done within the next couple of months.
Nice. So there's nothing on our half. It's more just informal, informational.
Correct. Now, the other question that Andy had was in regard to the stairs and new deck at Talent Hall. I talked to Jim Spots, who's been involved with the Air National Guard, and they are still projecting this fall for the replacement of those steps and stairs. The stairs and deck, I mean. So.
Okay. Hopefully the price of lumber will drop back down and we can afford to do it.
Agreed.
Oh, definitely.
There's no
If
major
not, we do
urgency
it
to
in
get
trucks.
Yeah, there's no major urgency to get it done this summer, right? I mean, basketball, it's more for basketball and events in the winter.
Well, with Town Hall being closed, I mean, there really is an urgency because we have nobody in there, so that second form of egress really doesn't be needed right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's another danger waiting to happen. All right, flagpole and sign at Justin Bissett Field, we just discussed, and that'll be moving forward. Summer camps at Dara. Lots of questions around this. When, who, will they need access to Talent Hall? And if it's can get approved by EMT. I did not find any information on this actual request. Do you guys have details on who sent it in?
No, that was Andy Collins. He was asking if we had any details on summer camps. I don't know exactly what his point was about it. Like, I haven't, in my tenure on the board, I haven't seen any summer camps there, so I don't really know what the protocol is for them.
Okay, I do know, I think they were saying last year there was 95, there was only 4 camps held out of 95 possibilities. So I'm sure they want to increase this year. All right, so that's something that we could discuss at our next meeting with Mr. Andy Collins to see if he has more details around it.
I think what Andy was speaking to, there's that group email that goes around from all the rec commissions about different summer camps. And
Okay.
who's utilizing, who's not. And I agree with Mr. Ruggles that I have not seen a summer camp in town in a long time.
Dara playground slide and support. We got notification that the rails at the slide bridge, I guess you would call it, broke away again. I went down there today and took a look. It looks like it's been repaired before. I don't know what the background on this is, when it was repaired, or even what the support that has been mentioned, where it goes. Was there one before? I kind of basic questions around it. And do we have an estimated cost to replace the bolts and or add the support post?
So I talked to Rachel, who has dealt with this gentleman who is, hold on, just looking this up. His name is Playground Bob. And I emailed him today asking for 2 or 3 sets of replacement bolts, because this isn't the first time it's happened. I'd just like to have a couple on hand in case it happens again. We can just throw them in. And then I also wanted to get a cost for the slide support, because I assume these are breaking because that slide support isn't up. So there's a lot more torque on those bolts than what it should be.
Do you know where the slide support is supposed to be?
I believe it goes from the tall slide down to the ground to anchor it. So you don't get that torsion on the top of the slide.
Does it attach to the side or something? Because we're talking the one that spins, right?
The
Yeah.
spiral.
The spiral, yeah.
I really, honestly, I don't know, Steve. I'm hoping to get more details from Playground Bob.
All right, I guess we can proceed with this. Hopefully we can get the bolts. Also, I noticed when you look at the bolts that were there compared to what was on all the other pieces of equipment, there's a bit of a curved washer that wraps around the pipe. So that it's a pole, and then another pole comes to it, and then there's a washer set up that grips the pole. And it looks like before they were just basically putting a bolt through the pipe to the other pipe, and I think that's not allowing it to actually grab as well as either. So if we can get that piece too, it's like a concave big washer. You
Okay.
understand what I'm saying?
Yep. I will.
And
I
then-
mean, I can't assume a couple bolts is a lot of money. I'll just pick them up and whatever, then we'll figure that out after.
Yeah, and then ask them about the slide support and what do we have to do and how to attach it and etc. I looked at it today and I did not see any evidence that there was another pole attached at any point. It may have been removed, but I didn't see any place
No,
of
I
actually
believe-
being able to
I
touch it.
believe we had budgeted that for last year, then we had the spending freeze, but I think we encumbered those funds for this year to get that done. So I think we have money allocated to do this.
I believe we did encumber them.
Okay, so then if you get the cost, then next meeting we should be able to move forward. I see playground mulch. I don't see. Okay. I went down, as I said, I went down today. There's still mulch to be spread. So if anybody's out there watching, if you feel like throwing some shovels around with some light bark mulch, it'd be greatly appreciated. I think that we had 30 or 60 yards dropped off, and we still need to spread the rest. All right, moving on. Oh, field use fee. This is a very interesting topic, and I think this is one that you and I, Andy Ruggles, have been talking about a lot. I did see the email that you sent out.
Yeah, hold on. I'll share my screen. Hold on. I created a spreadsheet. I just compiled all the surrounding towns. Field usage fees, just so we could get an idea, maybe a starting point, talking point. Some of these towns charge for their local groups. I mean, I don't necessarily think I want to do that. But when you get non-Amherst or for-profit groups, you're talking $125 per hour on some of these fields. I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. I do think we need to, if we're going to start allowing for-profit or non-Litchfield groups to use our fields, we need to come up with a fee schedule. And maybe it's different for different courts and whatnot. But if we do that, we're going to have to nail down our field schedule. There's kind of like a whole bunch of stuff that's going to go along with this. And
now, I think it's a great idea. I assume we'd have to have them provide insurance, or is this something that we would have to pick up a liability policy that they utilize?
I believe they'd still have to provide insurance.
I agree.
I mean, you're talking strictly field usage. I know some of these groups, you know, some of these private for-profit leagues charge kids a lot of money for these groups that they're in. So, I mean, they're paying to use fields somewhere.
Be great to be able to recoup some of the charges, or take the charges and recoup some of the maintenance that we're putting into the fields. You know, as we're talking about just irrigation pumps and more heads and etc.
In doing
fields.
more improvements.
Yeah, let the fields pay for themselves.
So many things we can do.
So, I mean, I guess at this point, I would like to see kind of, I guess I'd just like to hear, you know, everybody's thoughts on it. Is this something we want to move towards, or is this something that you don't think that Litchfield should consider? You know, I know it's going to be a big undertaking if we decide to move to this, because we're going to have to, there's going to be a lot of work involved.
Yeah, as I mentioned in previous meetings, without having a rec commission or a rec director, it'll be very difficult to manage. I know they sell software programs, and as a committee, maybe we can, you know, manage it. But without having a dedicated person looking after this, it would be very, very difficult to keep on. I do think it's a great idea, and I think it'd be, you know, if the fields are sitting empty, why not utilize them?
I mean, do we start small and try to manage it?
Well, I mean, consider how many requests do we really get per year? What are we talking, 2 or 3? You know, I mean, I don't think we're talking about 100 requests a year. So, I mean, I guess at this point, it wouldn't be a huge undertaking to manage. You know, obviously our local teams are going to get priority, but we also need our local teams to get us their schedules so we know exactly when they're going to be on the field.
I do believe that if we open this up, we'll probably open it up to once 3 or 4 teams here that they could use our fields. I'm sure it'll increase over time.
Based off of what we've seen so far, I think the first people out of the gate are going to ask is going to be softball for Dara. You know, then based off of the field usage we have, I don't know, something probably could hit Sawmill, because, you know, we can do a couple of events at once down there. But I think the biggest thing right now is going to be softball out of the gate. You know, and do we use softball as the testing ground for this and see if we can even manage it and if it's worth our while?
Steve, do we have to run anything by legal and Troy before we even?
Yeah, so what we'd have to do is we have to come up with a policy and procedure, and we're gonna have to come up with forms and so forth with legal in order to even get any type of establishment on being able to do this. And then from
That was going to be my question as well, is are we even allowed to do this in some of our recreational fields?
yeah, I mean, they're under the direction of the rec commission. If we want to go do this, we can go do it. But we just have to make sure that, you know, from a legal standpoint, that we have all the right policies, procedures in place and the liability. And I do know that Town Administrator Brown has been off investigating this. He's off this week, but I know it has been on his list to go and investigate based off of earlier meetings we had, asking, you know, just to go off and test the waters, talk to legal, and figure out what we'd need to do in order to be able to establish something like this.
So Steve, do you want to share this, or should I share this spreadsheet with Troy just so he has an idea of what other towns are doing, or?
That'd be fantastic, Andy, if you could do that, please.
Yeah, I certainly can.
Yeah, he'll be back on Monday, so we can bring the conversation back up.
All right,
All right.
that's all I have on that. I just wanted to get everybody's opinion. I will send this off to Troy, try to get the ball rolling.
Awesome. Irrigation mapping. Yeah, this was dear, close to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I do. So I completed the map for Jeff Lane. I know Andy had mentioned that there were possibly some maps of how the irrigation system works down at Dara. I really think at some point we need all these maps in one place. So, obviously, so when we have a different contractor or whatever, they're not starting at ground zero again. Now, I did have some ideas of how to do it. I use an underground utility locating company through work. Maybe it's something we can budget in for next year, that any fields that we don't have mapping on, we could have them come in, and basically what they do is send a signal through the irrigation control lines, and then they can use a wand and detect where all the mains run and flag them along the way. And then we could draw our maps from that. It's pretty easy. I talked to the guy already. He thought about 4 hours per field. I think he charges $200 per hour. So that just gives everybody a ballpark of what we're looking at. But I think it would be a valuable thing to have.
In which fields do we feel that we don't have as-built on?
I'm going to assume Sawmill has one.
I would think Sawmill and Dara. I mean, Dara may be modified because of the batting cages and other work. But I think the
Yep.
tough one's probably what, Brickyard and Corning.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yep. But until I get my hands on those maps, the only one we have is Jeff Lane at this point.
So where are the other ones supposed to be? Are they supposed to be at Town Hall?
I don't know.
All right, I'll reach out to Kevin Lynch, who used to be the building inspector. He kind of knows where everything's hidden at Town Hall. I'll see if he knows where those possibly could be.
That would be awesome, Steve. If you get your hands on them, send them over, and I can make sure they're digitized and saved correctly.
Yeah, we probably just have them in paper, so if you can scan them in somehow and get them digitized, that'd be great.
Yeah, I've got a large format scanner at work, so I can do whatever.
Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mr. Ruggles. All right, tick prevention and at the fields and playground. We looked and I do not see the line item for this. Mr. Collins mentioned that the rec basketball previously paid to have the area around the outdoor courts at Talent and Dara sprayed. I assume they sprayed some of the playground, but I do not know for sure. I did a little research and found out that bark mulch is actually a natural deterrent for ticks. And I don't know how we could actually control them dropping from trees. I did ask Troy if we still have the mosquito, what is it, Andy?
The mosquito control board.
Mosquito control district.
Yeah,
but it's been disbanded. So I guess that's something that we should consider. Tick prevention, I think, would be a good thing to have. Really be difficult to control mosquitoes. I don't know if we ever have. Does anybody have any input or background as to if we've ever done this before?
so I can speak to baseball. In the years past, we've actually paid on our own dime to have Corning Field done. So we've done mosquito and tick in the past down at Corning. I think we did it in 2016, 2017, 18, and 19. We used to have the mosquito squad. They would come in and do it for us. And they were also a sponsor at that time. I think since then they've been sold to a Massachusetts organization.
I'll tell you what, the ticks are bad this year.
I think that's a good way to do it if you can offer it as a sponsorship and see if somebody's willing to chip in, at least discount it.
Yeah, they gave us, we put up sponsorship signs and they gave us a very discounted rate to go spray the Corning field because we have that retention pond that's way in the back by the backfield, and it's pretty bad back there from a mosquito standpoint, and also, we saw a lot of ticks down there, so we've taken care of that in the past.
Should this be something that we have maybe a couple companies come in, give us a quote and maybe add it to a line item? I know this is one of those topics that people have different feelings about. They don't believe you should be using pesticides around playgrounds and fields, but also we don't want ticks on the children.
Well, it sounds like in the past, it's been kind of left up to the individual sports rec teams using those fields.
You know, I kind of relate this back into trash pickup, which is another thing near and dear to me these days. As a recreation commission, if we are going to have these fields, I think we should have the services at the fields, such as trash pickup. I think we should have tick prevention, mosquito, and so forth, and that should be part of the use of the field. I mean, if it gets to the point that the dollar value to do it gets too high, we may have to charge each organization a fee to use the fields. I'd hate to get to that point, but I think the basic services should be something we give back to the community.
I agree.
I agree as well. I mean, on all accounts, the trash pickup is a huge issue at all of our fields, and it's, you know, the amount of litter that is coming along with the lack of trash pickup is evident.
You know, I think that's something we really need to get our arms around in the next couple months, what we're going to do about, you know, trash pickup at all the recreation fields.
Now, do we need such large canisters? Like the container at Dara that's enormous, and it's not being used. And even when Town Hall is used, I don't think does it ever get filled? When they dump it, how much is it at quarter capacity? Is it at half capacity?
That's a great question. I mean, I don't see any of our fields needing anything more than maybe 4 yards. Yeah, that's a smaller dumpster. I think we also should tie off with Dave Mellon down at the transfer station. With the amount of trash that he puts out, I'm sure he can get us a substantially discounted rate for those dumpsters.
So we'd be looking at a dumpster. I don't know if we need one at in this fields. It seems fairly clean. It seems like people are doing a great job at carrying in, carrying out. But some of the other fields, obviously Dara, Sawmill, there's a lot of occupancy. Corning and Jeff Lane, I would think there'd be a demand and a need.
I think so too. And, you know, in the majority of those fields, we don't need them for the whole year because we only utilize, if you look at Jeff Lane and Corning, I mean, we utilize them from, let's say, April till September. So, I mean, it's not like, and we could actually set it up to that we call in order to get them dumped. It doesn't have to be a weekly dump. I mean, I think the last time the one at Corning was dumped, we didn't have much of a season last year, but was probably once in 2020. It's full now, so baseball is going to have it dumped again. We're going to pick up the cost of that. But yeah, I'm thinking that you probably got a dump to start off the year and then maybe one more. If you look at Jeff and Corning. I think Dara, with the amount of use of playground, basketball, softball, soccer, I mean, everything that goes there, that's probably might be monthly until the snow flies. Sawmill, other than what? Maybe spring, summer, and fall, or spring and fall. I mean, I don't think a whole lot goes on there in the summertime.
Yeah, I also, like we mentioned before, I believe if people see dumpsters, then they're more apt to dump their trash or leave it thinking that somebody's there to pick it up. And where, you know, in his field, there's not a lot of trash in it. I think it's simply because they carry in and carry out because there is not a dumpster or trash barrel.
You know, and as I spoke about before, in baseball, we actually lock the dumpster. So you need the combination to get in there in order to dump. And that way it keeps people from the community leaving their trash behind in there. Because we have found computer terminals, we have found paint cans, we have found tires. I mean, baby mattresses, we have found everything in there.
Yeah, it's same thing at Dara. It's if somebody doesn't make it to the dump, that's just as convenient. All right, so let's I like this idea. I think it is something that if we talk to Dave Mellon, maybe he could work a deal with for us. And I know there's a lot of small startups in the area that are looking for business, so maybe we could strike a deal with one of them.
So, I mean, just moving forward, it sounds like we'd have to contract this out for next year, right? It's not necessarily a solution that we could have to a problem this year.
Yeah, I mean, unless we found some line item in the budget to put it against, we really can't. It's something we're going to have to look at and speak with the budget committee and try to get it into our budget for next year.
Agreed.
All right. Noise complaints. I know Mr. Collins was going to speak with the boot camp at Dara folks. I do not know where this stands at the moment. Has he gave anybody else feedback as to the outcome of the conversation?
I haven't heard anything.
I haven't heard anything either.
All right. We'll just leave it like it is, and I'll reach out to Andy and see if he had any conversation with them. I thought he was going to go down. But we'll follow up on that. I'll follow up on that. Officer elections. We actually took care of that one last meeting. So we're a little early, jumped the gun. Should be done in the first meeting in May. Old business, security cameras at the properties. I think it's a definite need. Will help reduce graffiti, malicious behavior. We had a little conversation. I know I mentioned it with Mr. Burns, and we had a conversation with John Brunel, the IT manager. I think it's something that we should look into, not even for security, but also we talked about badge access to Dara instead of the old keypad. Do you have
So
any input on that, Mr. Go ahead.
I talked to John yesterday, just because we've had a lot of incidences lately at the fields. He kind of gave me a breakdown of costs for each of the, each camera and stuff. And, obviously if he gets a bunch of cameras, it's a little bit less, but he said basically figure it's $1,000 per camera. You're probably going to need a couple cameras per field. And then you're going to have to figure in the wiring and, whatever hubs and whatnot you need for the places. So you're going to be talking a pretty big number to get security at each of our fields. That being said, if you look at what's actually happened at our fields the last couple of weeks, a irrigation cover was broken. An outhouse was tipped over, which stinks, obviously, but it's something that, it's not a high cost damage that's going on. And really, there's nothing really that high of cost at the fields that I just don't know if it's going to warrant putting $50,000 into a series of camera systems. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
That's my only hang up with it, and then, but at the same time, if you get a, $200 camera, you're not going to get any idea of who's actually committing these acts. So, I mean, I kind of go back and forth in my head about it.
Yeah, it's hard to justify the cost when the actual impact is small. It's an inconvenience, but it hasn't
Chris is our
added up to
expert
the
on it.
point
What do you
of
think?
Yeah,
This is the
so
world we live in.
exactly. So there are solutions, and I know if using the cameras that John has around town, that estimate is probably fairly accurate as far as cost goes. And if that, I agree, Andy, that the damage has been minimal as far as dollars go. One of the nice things about cameras is the deterrent factor too. So that does play into it. And you definitely, I mean, if you're going to make the investment, you want it to be something that's useful, that's usable. So, going after the game cameras, or something that is something you can buy on Amazon, isn't going to get the results, when there are issues that they do pop up. The door at Dara at Talent Hall, I think that makes sense, because that is something that's used constantly, and you can have an audit trail from it. That I think that's it's separate from the vandalism and that type of issue. But I think that the door makes a lot of sense, for a number of reasons compared to what's there now. But from a
possibly
camera
some
standpoint,
replacement cameras at Dara as well.
yeah, I don't know what they're using now. I've seen some cameras up and around there, and they look fairly old, but You know, I don't, that's not the, I don't believe they're the same cameras that John's using around town.
Right.
You know, at some of the other facilities, but he would know better on that. And I think that's just a local system, like an old analog DVR type setup, which also probably doesn't have the quality that you get with some of the newer systems. You know, there are systems that could be available. You know, just local systems have similar to that. You know, have an NVR, have some decent cameras up and around that would get results. You know, and you know, if you're talking 2 or 3 cameras on a building with an NVR, you know, you could probably be spending about, you know, maybe $2,500, $3,000 for a system like that. You know, as opposed to I think he uses the Meraki cloud-based cameras, you know, at the fire department and town hall, and in those areas it might be a little bit more expensive, but I think there are some options. But I guess it really just depends on how much we want to invest in it, given the severity of the incidences.
Okay. So for
Speaking
now,
back to the point Mr. Ruggles did bring up about tipping over the outhouses, you guys had requested that I get with Town Administrator Brown last time and see if there is a way that the companies use to keep the outhouses being tipped over. And what they came back with was pouring in concrete slabs, having a lag boat come up from it, and then you actually just secure the outhouse to it. And that way nobody can do it. So that would mean that we'd have to go to each one of our locations, pour a concrete slab, put a securing means onto it, and then they'd secure it to that. So if that's something we want to look to doing in the future, it's a way of keeping them from being tipped over.
It's not a bad idea, and that way they have a flat place to sit too.
Yeah.
Flat dedicated spot. It wouldn't have to be that big of a pad.
No, not at all. I mean, it's fairly easy to put in, but it's just something we'd have to go around and do.
Right.
Maybe something good the Boy Scouts could go do for us.
I like it.
That it could also be, you know, it could be a senior project for one of the high school kids.
Yeah.
Way of getting it done that, you know, we get free labor out of it and it's low cost to the commission.
It's a good idea.
It would be also something we'd have to plan for.
Definitely for next year, put in the budget.
I like it. I think that's a good idea. I think that's one way to keep them from being tipped over. Probably the smartest way, simplest way.
And like I said, but besides the outhouses, I mean, the only other thing of value out at the fields is the fields themselves. Like if somebody were to get out there and do donuts on them, but they're all fenced off.
You know, and if they do tagging of any of the concession stands or anything else, I mean, yeah, it's a pain in the butt, it's paint and so forth, but it's not huge dollar values that, you know, want us to go invest all this money into a camera system.
Right.
Yep, I would agree. All right, moving on. Talent Hall floor repair. I know 2 years ago, Pickleball provided us with some funds to help maintain the floor at Talent that we did not utilize. I do not know exactly what the requires repair portion is.
That was I added that. I want to get that done before we open Talent Hall again. It's been looming for the last couple of years. Now is the perfect time to do it. So I want to give, you know, contractors a call and get them in there and give us a budget, you know, a quote. Does anybody know what our budget is for that? Like what we were.
I believe they gave us $3,000 once or $3,000 twice.
And none of it's been used, Steve?
None of it's been utilized. I remember being on, you know, as one of the selectmen, I remember accepting the funds. We need to accept the donations, and none of that has been utilized. So we either have $3,000 or $6,000 sitting there for improvements to Dara. Well, town hall. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to get on that as a board, so I will take that ball and run with it.
yeah, and at that dollar value, I think we just need Mr. Gannon and Mr. Brown's signatures when we do get contracts coming in.
Okay.
And I believe the last time we talked about this, we're in the understanding that there's nothing we really could do to the floors. I don't even think we could sand them again. I think all we could do is really clean them and poly coat them a couple more times. But
Well,
I think we were told last time. Go ahead.
Let me talk to the contractor. I actually was at a cornhole tournament there a couple of years. It was before the pandemic, and one of the players happens to be a wood floors contractor in the area, and he said it wouldn't cost all that much money to do some fairly big improvements there. So let me get in touch with him. Get a real good plan of what we want to do and get some costs. And maybe it's something, because I believe we have building repairs and stuff like that budgeted as well. So, maybe we put some of our money towards it as well. But those floors are in rough shape, and I think we need to do some stuff before this winter, where I anticipate we're going to be using this again.
I would agree with that. Along with, I'd like to look into updating the bathrooms, remove that huge hot water tank, do something on demand, clean out the kitchen. We don't need the stove. We don't need the refrigerator. Maybe turn it into more of a storage for sports gear. There's definitely a couple things
I
we
would
could
like
do.
a thermostat on those bathroom electric heat too, if we could.
Yes.
Because those things are either off or just blaring.
Steve, is that something you could talk to the electrician about?
Definitely.
Is that something he would know how to do, or?
Oh, he'd be able to do it in a heartbeat. So I'm actually going to be with him tomorrow out at Jeff Lane in Corning. So I'll have that discussion with him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, ask him a couple things like the heaters, as you mentioned, replacing the water tank. I don't know if that's it's in his ball field, but that might be something we could reach out to Mr. Gibbons for. But yeah, this building's sitting there burning energy, but nobody's using it. So we should be able to pretty much cold shell it when no one's in there, enough where the water lines don't freeze.
Yeah, we got to get a better handle around that building. I mean, I don't even know if the heat tape that's around some of the pipes is still working or not.
Right.
So I'll have that conversation tomorrow when I'm with Steve Benoit.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
You're welcome, Andy.
So the last one is a non-public session. Is this something you guys want to discuss tonight, or would you prefer to hold it off until we have a full board?
I think we go into non-public tonight.
I'm comfortable this evening.
Okay. All right, Mr. Brunel and Mr. Fay. We will be having a non-public session. We'll be entering into non-public under RSA 91-A 32C for reputation. We will only come out of the non-public to adjourn the meeting. I will entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Mr. Ruggles.
Aye.
Mr. Weber.
Yes.
And I am also an aye.